Hello, Starshine. My name is Liz and this is my channel, Simsational Stories. If you have not seen my videos before and you enjoy this one, please like and subscribe. And maybe check out my Facebook page where this whole thing began as well. Just be aware that I may be way further ahead there than I am here on my channel. So only look it up if you're alright with spoilers. All relevant links are in the description below. And of course, if you're a Sims player and you'd like to download any of the characters featured in my stories, just search the hashtag Simsational Stories on the Sims 4 gallery. All original content is created by This Is Not Eric. Alrighty then. So, welcome. And what is up, Buttercup? Are you having a good day or a bad day? Whichever your answer, please allow me to distract you from your life and tell you a story. A Simsational story. Before I begin though, I'd like to issue this blanket content and trigger warning. The following story is just Sims, hey. I'm not going to apologise for treating them terribly, if that's what I've done. But I do want to assure you now that although I mean absolutely no harm, I completely understand if you feel unable to consume my content. Many loves, and we will catch each other on the internet elsewhere. Okay, so now I've gotten that over with, let's go. Today's story is from the Ascension of Anastasia, and we're at chapter 1. All subsequent chapters will be put into a playlist on my channel, where you will be able to hear the entire story in chronological order. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Anastasia. Meet Anton and Anastasia Lewis, newlyweds who have just moved to Simsational to start their life together after getting married straight out of high school. Their apartment, at 131021 Schick Street, is small but suits them and their modern lifestyle perfectly. The only issue is the lively neighbours. Anastasia is an aspiring actress and spends much of her time curating the perfect social media profile. She has over 1,000 followers already, but she tries not to let it get to her head. The internet can be a deceptive place, and like Anton is always telling her, not all of her followers are who they say they are. While Anastasia pursues her acting dreams and keeps the house clean, Anton pays the majority of the household expenses using his generous military paycheck. It's not that Anna doesn't get work. She does, more and more each week. But acting is such a flippant thing, whereas the military is a much more reliable career choice. Anna misses Anton a lot when he is deployed, and there is a bit of a power imbalance between them. And when he is home, Anton is often found going out with his best mate and next-door neighbour Nicholas Lockyer. Nick's definitely one of the big reasons why their flat was even labelled by the real estate to have lively neighbours. He brings home a different woman every night and tells Anton all about it. He managed to get not just Nina and Dina Caliente pregnant, but their mother Katrina too, and all in the same month. The man was an animal. Nick wasn't the only neighbour Anton liked to invite out to drink with them. Their other neighbour, Kellyanne Kalfas, had been through a lot of drama, and Anton felt kind of sorry for her. She was a single mum, heavily pregnant to her dead fiancé who had died under tragic circumstances, and she just seemed kind of lonely. Would she like to come out with them? Anton was pleasantly surprised when Kellyanne turned up. There was something about her. It didn't seem to matter that she was pregnant to another man. She was tragically beautiful, and both he and Nick could see it. Nick was obviously in a better position to be pursuing her though. He wasn't married. And while Anton drank with his neighbours, his wife Anastasia stayed home. It was hard for her sometimes to trust him, especially given how Nick acted. But they'd been together since high school, and she knew he loved her. Besides that, there's Kellyanne there too, and she would keep Anton in line just by being there, right? Wrong. Kellyanne and Anton were very obviously attracted to one another, much to Nick's annoyance, and it was hard to ignore the chemistry between them. And while Nick did everything in his power to get her attention, Anton was the one receiving it almost sheepishly. He knew it was wrong, but it still felt nice. That's why Kellyanne was so horrified with herself when she woke up one Saturday morning to a victorious Nicholas in her bed. What had she done? He wasn't even the one she liked. She felt so disgusted with herself. Her Julian was barely cold in his grave, and here she was, sleeping with other men she didn't even like, just to distract herself from the one she did like, that she couldn't have. After that night, Kellyanne stopped going out, and if Anton wanted to see her, God help him, he did, then he had to go around to her place to do it. This was harder to explain to Anastasia than going out with Nick had been, but Anton excused himself by suggesting that his wife was being rather ridiculous. Kellyanne was pregnant with a toddler. What would he want with her? Kellyanne didn't stay pregnant for long, though. It would have been a bit weird if she did. And her son Kevin was born just 2 months after Anton met her. Kellyanne's eldest daughter Kelsey was from a previous relationship, and Kevin's father had passed away early in her pregnancy, leaving Kellyanne all alone in the world. It was hard for her. And it was hard for Anton too. Now that Kellyanne wasn't pregnant, he found her even more irresistible than ever before. It didn't help that Nick had been so graphic about his own encounter with him. He'd even taken a few sneaky shots on his phone when she wasn't looking. And now that she'd bounced back from the baby, the body she had, it was incredible. It didn't happen immediately, but it didn't take much time either. Kevin was barely a month old when Anton and Kellyanne's illicit affair officially began. If Anna was gone for the day attending auditions, once the kids were down for a nap, Kellyanne would just sneak next door, and they could pretend it was their place, that they had no kids at all, and that they were a real couple. This unwedded extramarital bliss lasted all of 2 weeks before Anastasia came home unexpectedly one day and caught them in the act. She had never really trusted her husband anyway, and had long since had tracking software installed on his phone. So when it showed him doubling back after leaving for work, she had known what was going on. For all her suspicion and mental preparation, Anastasia was still furious. How could Anton do this to her? And Kellyanne, that slut. Anna punched her dead in the mouth and spat at her to get out. She'd heard that Kellyanne's eldest daughter was fathered by a married man, but had given the bitch the benefit of the doubt before now. And this is how she'd repaid that trust? Well, 2 could play at that game. Anastasia found Nicholas to be pretty disgusting, and she had no idea that he'd also been with Kellyanne. But that first night while Anton stayed at a motel, she called Nick over and they spent the night together too. It meant nothing, absolutely nothing, and it didn't even make her feel better. But she never told Anton about it either. For his part, Nick felt no guilt either. Anton might have been a mate, but some things were bigger than that. And besides, hadn't they both just been playing the same game? He knew Anton would have split straws about it if he knew, because Anna was his wife. But whatever. They were no better or worse than each other, really. And in the end, Nick was right. They had both been playing the same game. Kellyanne may have made a mistake with Nick, but she really liked Anton, and he didn't really care about her at all. Now that he'd gotten what he wanted and got caught by Anna, he was determined to do anything he could to save his marriage. He had enough manners to tell her in person at least, and Nick heard every word while pretending to check his mail. That night, Nick took Kellyanne over a bottle of wine, just as a mate, of course. Kellyanne laughed with him when he said that. They both knew why he was really there, and for once, Kellyanne was up for it. That whole thing with Anton had left a bad taste in her mouth. A bit of fun with Nick would help her forget all about it. And unlike the last time they'd slept together, the morning after wasn't awkward at all. She and Nick had a really relaxed breakfast, Kellyanne's favourite, grilled cheese on toast, and chatted about work. Nick worked at a business firm that was trying to break into the online world, and Kellyanne had some good advice for him. It was good. Easy, even. Maybe they could just have a bit of a no-strings thing. No such luck, unfortunately. A few weeks later, and Kellyanne was feeling those terrible familiar sensations. Surely she couldn't be pregnant again already. Kevin was still a newborn. Kelsey had just started walking. How was she going to deal with this? And worst of all, who was the father? But unfortunately for Kellyanne, after a rocky start to their marriage in San Myshono, Anastasia and Anton had moved to Del Sol Valley and had cut all contact with their previous connections in the city. so Kellyanne couldn't even tell them she was pregnant. Anton was lucky enough to have been able to transfer to the local military base, and Anna's career was finally starting to take off. Who knew what the future would hold for them? And that brings us to the end of Chapter 1 of The Ascension of Anastasia. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can tune in soon to hear the next chapter. Or like I said, look us up on Facebook for spoilers. Just don't say I didn't warn you. Bye!